Hey, KU fans, welcome back to KU Sports Extra, the one you've all been waiting for, March Madness. I got Florida, Oklahoma State, Mississippi, and Colorado State. Oh.
None of them are in the tournament,
Yeah,
right?
my bad. Totally different thing.
Is that the Vegas 16?
Yeah, totally
different.
different
Is that the tournament
thing.
you'll be covering?
It is. We'll stick to the March Madness NCAA Division I bracket here, and we're going to talk nonstop the whole time. No gimmicks, no primetime picks, nothing else but tournament talk. That's the good news. There is no bad news. Tom, what's your first takeaway from the bracket, from the tournament, and from the fact that it's the week of games?
Well, I've never seen a weaker regional in a bracket than this year's West Regional. It's unbelievable. It blows my mind. Kansas beat Oklahoma twice. Kansas won the league title, conference title, won the conference tournament. West Virginia finished second in the conference regular season standings, finished second in the conference tournament. I don't understand why Oklahoma has an easier path than Kansas and West Virginia.
Crazy.
And I know Joe Castiglione, the AD of Oklahoma, is the chairman of the selection committee. The chairman is out of the room when his school is discussed. Any selection committee member is out of the room when their school is discussed. But you still want to make them happy, I think. That's human nature, that you're in this room for hours and hours and hours, several days together.
Yeah, even a subconscious thing, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
subconscious. But, I mean, they didn't do Joe any favors. This just looks bad.
Yeah, there's no doubt. The funny thing about that West, 3 of the 7 Big 12 teams are in that West region. So is that kind of an indication that maybe the Big 12 is not as strong as people think, since you think it's by far the weakest? Or
well,
not?
Baylor is a number 5 seed.
Right.
That's a pretty easy path for Duke, I
Right.
think. I mean, Baylor has some stuff going for it, but Baylor is not one of the top 3 teams in the Big 12. And
Right.
Oklahoma faded some during this. Why should Oklahoma have an easier path than Kansas and even West Virginia? I don't understand the West Virginia disrespect.
Yeah, that's weird too. And then Texas is the other one in the West as a 6 seed, which is a little high for Texas, I think.
Yeah.
And weird that Oklahoma and Texas could match up in this week.
And then
16.
Texas Tech was overseeded they're in an 8-9 game.
Yeah, they'll play Butler in the Midwest.
Now
region.
look at that 8-9 game compared to Colorado UConn.
Right.
Kansas has to play the winner of Colorado UConn. UConn's one of the hottest teams in the country. An 8-9 in the what region is it?
The Midwest.
The Midwest.
Texas Tech, Butler.
Texas Tech and Butler. Are you kidding me?
Look,
How can
Brad
you compare
Stevens
those?
is gone.
Yeah.
Butler is not a powerhouse.
No.
Texas Tech will probably still lose to them. I'm down on the Big 12. I love the Big 12 conference. I loved the season. I think there are 2, maybe 3 teams that could make a deep run here in this tournament, and I think the others are in trouble. And that's not anything new. You know, I think over the last couple of years, maybe even going back farther, the Big 12's really done poorly.
They've only advanced 2 teams the
Yeah.
past couple of years to the Sweet 16.
And Baylor's been one of them. You know, Baylor's had a nice
Yeah.
little stretch of tournament success, more so than others. And I think West Virginia's also right there. They were in the Elite 8 last year, yeah?
I don't know.
Kentucky,
I can't remember.
lost to Kentucky.
That sounds right.
We'll
but
see.
also, Huggins did take West Virginia in the Final Four.
Yeah, yeah.
But that was before West Virginia joined the Big 12, correct?
Benton will ding us on these either way, or maybe whichever one. That's why he's
But
back there.
point is, 2 to the Sweet 16 is not good.
Not
which
good.
is what they got last year. If you get 3, that's respectable anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I thought it was interesting. Myron Medcalf, ESPN.com, had 3 Big 12 teams in the Final 4.
Wow.
Now this was under his 10 bold predictions for the tournament. But he's a very fair dude, and he doesn't just throw crap out there. You know,
Who's he have besides Kansas?
Kansas, Oklahoma, West Virginia.
Interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was.
Well, you know, Oklahoma's in the right region.
Definitely.
The West.
And West Virginia is very, very talented, as KU has seen 3 times now.
And the style is very, very difficult, especially if you're playing it for the first time.
Tough regional, though, with Carolina, Kentucky, and Xavier. They got to get
Brutal.
by a couple of those at least.
That's a brutal region. The East and the South. The East and the South are brutal regions.
So the South. So Kansas is in the South, and Virginia is in the Midwest.
Crazy
Makes total
also.
sense.
A 5-hour longer trip for Virginia. I mean, if you were going to do it by car, which, you know.
They won't.
They won't. But the point is,
yeah, for fans and stuff, it's part of it too.
Yeah, and Kansas is a Midwest school
No
in
doubt.
the Midwest region, and with a huge alumni base in Chicago. I know some Kansas fans who already bought
Absolutely.
in Chicago.
Tons and tons. I heard about a ton of people that did that.
Yeah. And now they'll have to go through the hassle of selling their tickets to Michigan State fans. And once they've gone through that, then they got to try to scramble to get to Louisville. They're not going to do that, I don't think, a lot of those people.
Yeah, it's crazy that happened, and it seems strange to me that it's almost like Michigan State is a 2 in the Midwest, which is Chicago.
Yep.
It's almost like we really wanted to make you a 1, but we didn't. So here's your consolation prize.
Right, it's crazy.
I'm sorry. Hopefully you don't hate us for this.
And then Kansas goes to Louisville, where some of those tickets are bought by people who live in the region, in Kentucky and Louisville and Lexington, and they'll be there. Kentucky fans rooting against Kansas.
No doubt.
Kentucky is in Des Moines.
Right.
Those fans will be there rooting against Kansas, rooting passionately for UConn or Colorado in the second round.
Right. Crazy. It is crazy. I will say this. It was worth KU heading to Louisville just so we could hear Self say, I've always wanted to go to the Yum Center. You just don't hear that every day. And now we can all
What's that named after? Is that named after Dunkin' Donuts? And the
KFC,
donuts
maybe?
Yum? Okay. KFC? Why?
I don't know. It's bad news. Kentucky Fried Chicken, that would at least make sort of sense. It's in Kentucky. But I think it's the KFC Yum Center.
Okay, greasy chicken is yum.
It's
yeah.
delicious.
Okay, makes sense.
Speaking
donuts
of yum,
too. Yeah.
What kind of sleepers are on your radar? Any bracket, any region? Are there many out there? I know this is a pretty strong favorites bracket. I think anyway.
I think it's been a strong favorites year. That the traditional powerhouses are having good years for the most part. I don't have any sleepers going to the Final Four. Xavier's in a very, very tough region. I have Xavier going to the Final Four, but Xavier's a very tough team.
No doubt. How about let's talk Wichita State. Wichita State Vanderbilt in a play-in game.
Yeah.
Vandy was a Final Four darling, everybody's sweet pick when we were out in Maui, and they looked darn good. I walked away believing it.
And Wichita State with Van Vliet healthy is very good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy.
Playing each other.
Yeah. What's a tougher game, do you think? Two 11s in a play-in game, Vanderbilt and Wichita State, or that 8-9 game we just talked about with Texas
close.
Tech and Butler? This makes no sense. It's crazy.
I think either Vandy or Wichita State could beat Texas Tech and Butler back-to-back in the same day to advance if they had to.
I agree.
I mean, really. Like, it's
and Wichita
ridiculous.
State's got no depth, and they still could do it.
It's ridiculous that they are playing each other, and it could be the best thing that ever happened to either of them because they could be hungry now, disrespected, especially Wichita State. They're used to being disrespected in this tournament, and it's really bizarre to me that they have been. They still have Van Vliet, they still have Baker, they still have Wessel. Those guys are guys that have been a part of this historic run.
Yeah, and how about the year they're number 1 seed and they have to play Kentucky in the second round when everyone knew Kentucky was an all-freshman team that was really on the come and was a really good team and I believe made it to the Final Four, correct?
Title game,
yeah. So that's, it's what they're doing to KU is not quite what they did to Wichita State, but UConn is one of the hottest teams in the country. And if UConn beats Colorado, Kansas has to play UConn in the second round.
Colorado, on the other hand, is one of the most underrated teams in the country. They have good size. They play hard. Tad Boyle. I mean, he's had it going there for a little bit of time now. And Josh Scott is a very, very strong, physical, tough presence inside. I mean, I think either one of those teams will be way, way more than a handful that you want to see in a second round game. And it's probably littered all over the board that way, but it is exciting.
Although it's not in the case of Butler.
It is not there. Yeah, Virginia, of all teams, gets the hook up.
What's the 8-9 game in the Week West?
The Week West has St. Joe, Cincinnati.
Cincinnati's legitimate.
Yeah, St. Joe has Isaiah Miles, pretty good player. But it's still not UConn, Colorado. No. I agree with you there. Well, regardless of how tough that second game is or how weak or tough other regionals are, we've been talking here for a while that we both feel Kansas is ready for a deep run.
Yes.
Anything about this bracket change your mind?
No, because, almost the bracket is unfair to other teams in the bracket, more to Kansas, because at least Kansas is still better than everyone in the bracket.
Right, yeah.
But it's not right, it's not fair, but Kansas can handle it. Some of these other teams just got the short end of the stick. I mean, you look at Cal. Cal is a tough team, getting better. They're healthy, and they have 2 freshmen who've been getting better by the minute. Ivan Rabb, 6'11", and Jalen Brown, one of the top players in the country, is a freshman.
Right.
I mean, he's a 6'7" type guy. I don't know what his exact height is, but that sounds about right.
Yeah, the weirdest thing to me in that South Regional, Iowa is a 7 seed.
Ridiculous.
It was a couple of weeks ago that Iowa was still in the conversation for a number 1.
Right. And
Insane. They have fallen apart.
They have fallen apart, but still.
How do you fall that quickly?
Yeah.
1 to 7.
One of the biggest teams in the country and pretty experienced team as well. So if they can get it back together, that's another tough team in the region. It's amazing, really.
In some ways, and I think you'd find it hard to find anybody that would disagree with this. It seems like the biggest advantage KU got in that region is that they have the weakest 2. Would you agree with that in Villanova? Xavier, Michigan State, and Oklahoma, all tougher than Villanova, in my opinion. So KU got hooked up in that sense. But that's so far down the road.
No, I think that Villanova is a better team than Oklahoma.
Do you?
I do.
Whew.
Yeah.
Whew.
They're stronger in the middle.
Whew.
Ochefku, however you pronounce it, is a really good player. He was a raw player who's been starting for 4 years, basically. I think he started as a freshman, and he's gotten pretty good.
Yeah.
Hart got a lot of heart, plays with a lot of heart.
Very good player.
They have excellent guards. No, I think that Archdiacono is one of those guys who can get hot in the tournament and carry a team. No, I think that Villanova is better than Oklahoma.
Do you really? Unbelievable. This is just blowing my mind. No, that's fair. I love OU, though. And even though they faded a little bit toward the end of the regular season, they showed up in the conference tournament and didn't get to the title game, of course, but played very well.
Buddy Hield's got to get his shot off just a hair quicker.
Yeah, right. He's killing them. All right, let's talk about some intriguing possible matchups, not just for Kansas, but there's a Sweet 16 matchup out there that looms that could be North Carolina-Kentucky. That's exciting.
Not fair to Kentucky again. They always stick it to Kentucky, too.
Not fair to Carolina either.
No, not fair to Carolina either.
Right.
That's great. That's great.
Second round, not fair to Kentucky. Kentucky potentially facing Indiana, who's as hot as anybody maybe right now.
Not fair to Indiana. Not fair to Kentucky.
Great matchup.
Great matchup, and 2 schools that used to play each other and don't anymore. That'd be great if those 2 teams advance to play each other. That's a must-watch.
I would love to see that. Baylor-Duke, you already kind of mentioned Baylor, and I don't know if that's that exciting in the Sweet 16 or no, second round even. It's a pretty good second round game.
It's a good second round game. It's not a second round game, though.
Yeah.
A 4 and a 5 would be in the second round. Yeah, that's right, of course. 4 and a 5. Yeah, that's a very good second round game.
That's got Sweet 16 sound to it, I think, I mean,
yeah, Baylor's quicker underneath and Duke is more skilled and has the more accomplished, more skilled coach.
Grayson Allen, too. I mean, Baylor doesn't have anybody like that at all. So I'm interested to see what Duke can do. Obviously, they're the defending champs, but they're different, very different. They have no depth, but they do have a lot of talent in that starting lineup. Can they make a run? They're in that Oregon's region. They're the 4, so they'd have to play the 1 seed early if Oregon advances. I don't know. What do you feel about Duke? And this isn't just for Bobby Nightingale, our biggest fan, our number 1 viewer. He's probably going to pick them to lose in the first round. The old emotional hedge.
Yeah.
But really, I think Duke's an intriguing team. What do you read on them?
Well, they're definitely a talented team, but they're not that experienced. And Jefferson's not playing this year, so that hurts them underneath. I'd like Oregon in that game, but Oregon's not the strongest number 1 either.
No doubt about it. Yeah. Just the last one I wanted to talk about matchup-wise. I think a really interesting matchup. You're down. I don't know if you're down or I'm down. I can't remember. But Iowa State, where do you feel they are heading into the tournament? I look at them as a potential Elite 8 matchup for Michigan State in that Midwest region. Iowa State, Michigan State would be an awesome regional final.
It would, and I would like Michigan State. But if Iowa State were in the West region, for example, I think I'd have them as my sleeper Final Four team.
Go.
It's just a team that can get hot and really outscore you. They don't play much defense, but they have a lot of experience at key spots, and Monte Morris is if he's shooting well, he's as good as any point guard anywhere, just about. And George Niang is obviously can score from anywhere, and he's very competitive, and he's got a lot of clutch in him, and he's a guy you'd like to see make it all the way to the Final Four.
I agree with that, yeah. And Benton said the same thing earlier. He wants the best for George, I think is how he put it. He's a big fan, and he just wants the best for him.
We all like guys that we can outjump.
Fair enough. All right, well, give me, now that we've seen it, give me who your number one seeds would have been. Doesn't matter region. I just want to know who your number one seeds would have been. I think they missed a couple of times myself. I'm sure you do as well.
Well, I would have given the number 1 overall seed to Kansas. I would have given the number 2 overall seed to Michigan State, the number 3 overall seed to North Carolina, and the number 4 overall seed to Virginia.
Okay, so you like Virginia still?
Yep.
Fair enough. Why do you like Virginia? They didn't win their conference. They didn't win their conference tournament. Everybody's saying those are 2 big strikes against them. Obviously, they played in a great conference.
Yeah, and they play a tough schedule and do well against it. I like Virginia because they can frustrate opponents.
Right.
They're one of the slowest playing teams in the country, and that's for 2 reasons. People always think offensively, which is part of it. They run something until they get a good shot, and Brogdon's
how dare they
become a great shooter.
That's
but
not
defensively. They call it the pack line defense, where they're all packed inside the three-point circle, and they have done a good job at making teams work forever to get a shot off and rush up bad shots. So it's a different style, just like West Virginia plays a different style from most teams. So those teams that play different styles can frustrate opponents. They haven't done well in the tournament the last couple of years, but I think this team is better, and I think the field is weaker.
Yeah, last year they were, a pretty hot team, one of the sexy picks going in, and this year they sort of flew under the radar a little more and ended up with a 1 seed out of it. It's kind of wild how that worked out, but their path is pretty nice. As you already mentioned, they play Hampton in the first round, and then Texas Tech Butler, and then the 4-5 there is Iowa State Purdue. Iowa State, obviously, we both think could be tough, but that's not the strongest, scariest 4-5 you've ever heard of. That's a pretty nice path.
It's an interesting tempo game, isn't it?
No doubt.
Iowa State likes to run up and down, and Virginia likes to ground it to an
really
old school
cool
game. It'd be a very cool game. I hope that game happens.
A couple teams that didn't get in, any of those bug you? I mean, St. Bonaventure seems to be the biggest one. Monmouth is another. Tulsa got in as an 11 in a play-in
Don't
game.
Understand Tulsa getting in. Don't understand Monmouth or Bonaventure not getting in. So I'd have to find one other team that got in to bounce.
It shouldn't be too hard.
Yeah. Syracuse, there you go. And that's the old chummy Jimmy Boeheim. All these people on the committee, they think it's cool that they know Jim Boeheim. Not all of them. Maybe some people think that it's cool. Yeah, Jimmy. Jimmy.
Unbelievable. Tulsa, not only do you think it's crazy they got in, they think it's crazy they got in. They didn't even have a watch party. They were like, you know what? It was a good run. Just didn't happen this year for us. So let's figure it out. We'll find out where we're heading, and we'll get ready to go make a run at the NIT. Wait, what? We're in? Oh, okay. Well, let me hand out some hats. They just handed out shirts and hats with just a big 1 on them. Like, we're number 1. That's it.
And
tournament.
And when they got in, I thought about Danny Manning, and Danny would have had this team probably playing even better than it is, and would have been in the tournament, and that would have been a lot of fun. But he took on a huge challenge. He knew it was a huge challenge to walk into the ACC, a conference with so many heavyweights, and had a rough go of it this year. It'd be interesting to see if he had stayed at Tulsa and he'd have the team in it, and maybe he gets them to the Sweet 16 and someone comes calling.
Right. I think you're right. I think
he's not the kind of guy to look back, though. He's always looking forward.
No, yeah, and the good opportunity presented itself. You got to jump at that. You don't have to, but he certainly felt like it was in that tier of good enough opportunities.
The bigger the challenge, the more it would appeal to someone like Danny Manning.
Sure, for sure. All right, well, let's finish it off. That's about as closely as we can dissect this thing without going game by game, which would have bored you guys to oblivion. So we didn't, but we bounced all over the place. That's what we do. Before we end it here, let's give them Final Four picks. I know yours are ready. You made them on the drive the other night. So I think you're prepared. I've got mine done. If you haven't already, whether you're ready or not, make sure you come to KUsports.com and enter our bracket contest.
Enter the Truity Credit Union
That's right.
Bracket Challenge. The Truity Credit Union Bracket Challenge And we'll have our own picks. We'll have a KenPom.com bracket. I'll fill it out in terms of advancing the team rate, Tyron, KenPom.com, RPI, Sagarin Predictor, Associated Press Top 25 poll, all in the Trudy Credit Union Bracket Challenge. You can enter for free and see if you can beat all those computers. Prove that humans are smarter than computers.
More important than that, you can win cold, hard cash. First place, $1,000, 500, 300, something like that after that. So why not? You're already in 1,000 other brackets. Come fill out ours.
And we're not eligible for the cash.
So you're not going to lose to us, even though you're going to lose to us. No, come check it out. KUsports.com, Truity Bracket Challenge. Fill it out. Have some fun. Share your friends. Follow us. Follow everybody. Give us your picks.
Give me a region, and I'll give you a team that's going to win that regional.
The South. We'll just start
Kansas.
right with it.
Kansas veteran team has won 14 in a row and has reason to have a little bit of a chip on the shoulder based on the difficult bracket. Whether that's a factor or not, I don't know. This is a pretty unemotional team. Unemotional team that has figured out a way to play its very best basketball in the final 4 minutes of almost every game it plays, with the exception of the Baylor game in the tournament, in the Big 12 Conference Tournament. So Kansas
forgot about that
in
already.
the South.
Yeah, good pick. I'm with you there. I think that whether it's Colorado, UConn, Maryland, Cal, Villanova, whoever it is, it's big names unless there's crazy upsets. And KU does much, much better playing bigger names. So I like Kansas. I would like them pretty much no matter what their bracket looked like, though. They are due for a run, and they're playing as well or better than anybody in the country. The East with Carolina, Kentucky, Xavier, all those teams. West Virginia's in there as well. Who do you have?
Brutal region. I'm going to advance Xavier to the final. Edmund Sumner is a really, really quick guard who is a freshman, redshirt freshman. So he'll have some good games, some bad games, but he's so quick. J.P. McCura coming off the bench to shoot. He's got almost Steph Curry-like range.
Statement.
Unbelievable. Yeah, this is a really, really good team.
They're really good.
And Miles Davis is running the show at point guard. He's got really great ear for basketball. Miles Davis, a great musical
I see what you did there.
Rhythm to his game, and he's a key to them as well. I like Xavier a lot, and this is a loaded bracket.
No doubt. I would love to pick West Virginia to get out of this one. I just can't do it, mostly because I like Xavier as well. I'm going to pick North Carolina to the Final Four, though. I think everybody and their dog is picking Kentucky to beat North Carolina. I think those who aren't are picking Providence to beat North Carolina. I think that's going to play well for this Carolina team. I think they are the kind of team that's going to have a chip on their shoulder too. So I've got North Carolina beating Xavier to get to the Final Four, but I'm right there with you. I think Xavier's strong.
If you want to figure out how to beat Providence, just call Steve Wojciechowski, the Marquette coach, who beat Providence twice this year.
What a legend in the making. All right, let's move to the Midwest. Virginia the 1, Michigan State the 2. The 3 is Utah. We didn't even talk about them. Say what you will about that. The 4 is Iowa State. The 5 is Purdue. I don't imagine it goes beyond that for you. Who comes out of the Midwest?
Midwest, Michigan State. Michigan State is tournament tested. Michigan State looked great in November against Kansas and coming back from a double-digit deficit. And Denzel Valentine, in my mind, should be the player of the year, the national player of the year.
I love it. I love the pick. I think you could say with some certainty that everyone in the entire world who fills out a bracket will have Michigan State in the Final Four. I think you could say that with certainty.
With certainty.
It's amazing. I mean, everybody has
even Dick Bennett, Tony Bennett's father,
I think so.
Once great in Wisconsin
He'll be
coach.
like, look, kid, you had a nice run, but you lost to Butler or Texas Tech.
Wow.
You guys stink. I have Michigan State as well, obviously, if I didn't say that already. Michigan State over Iowa State. I'm one of the 1,000,000% certainty.
Okay.
All right, let's go. This is the last one. So you have Kansas, you have Xavier, and you have Michigan State.
Right.
I have Kansas, North Carolina, and Michigan State. And in the weak West, where you have Oregon, Oklahoma, A&M, Duke, Baylor, Texas, who do you have?
Nobody is good enough.
You just pick 3 in the Final Four.
So by default, I'll go with Oregon.
Don't like them?
Not really, no.
Yeah. Fair enough. You know who I do like? I like Oregon State a lot. I think they got a tough draw, though, against VCU in the first round. But I like Gary Payton Jr.
Yeah. You know what they call him? His father was the glove. You know what they call Junior?
I can't wait, though.
The mitten.
That's amazing.
Great defender.
That's amazing. That's
streaky shooter.
That's a tough nickname. It doesn't sound very strong, but
Kansas
I like it.
played Oregon State way back in November.
Hard to believe.
I think it was Sprint Center. Was it November? I think it was so. Yeah. I believe we were on the road covering football.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't remember who Kansas was playing, but I know they lost in football that day.
Fair guess. Fair guess. All right, so you go Oregon. Is that correct? So you have Kansas, Xavier, Michigan State, Oregon.
3 1s and a 2, right?
Yep.
No, 2 1s and 2 2s.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Oklahoma. I can't get enough of the Buddy Hield show. And
I hope so. That'd be fun.
I like Oklahoma a lot. And I think
it'd be Oklahoma, Kansas again in the Final Four.
In the semifinal game, yeah. Do you want to go all the way here and pick a winner?
Sure.
All right. I've got Kansas winning that game for a third time.
I have Kansas defeating Oregon.
Okay. I have North Carolina defeating Michigan State.
I have Michigan State defeating
Xavier.
So
you have KU Michigan State final.
Or is it Xavier? Yes, I have a KU Michigan State final.
And your winner is? You did
KU.
it. You did it. By 30?
No.
By 3.
Double OT.
Double OT final. How
on a buzzer shot by
Svi.
Devontae Graham.
Atislav.
His teammates like to call him D-Tay.
D-Tay. Oh,
but I'm way too old to call him D-Tay, so I'm going to call him Devontae.
What a classy move. I've got KU winning it all as well, beating North Carolina and Roy. What a wild finish that would be.
Yeah.
I mean, if it happens, if it gets to that, I think KU fans would have to be very nervous because Roy is very due to beat Self and to beat Kansas, but I still think Kansas is a better team.
So you've got Kansas beating the same team 3 times in 1 year and the same coach 3 times in the NCAA Tournament.
Incredible.
In the Final Four.
Incredible.
Self's record in the Final Four, 750 winning percentage as a Final Four coach.
Very good if he gets there. Elite 8 record, not as good.
Nope, not as good.
Two wins in the Elite 8s, 5 or 6 losses, right?
Yeah, how many people would love to be able to say they have lost 6 Elite 8 games?
Kidding. Unbelievable stuff. All right, well, we are headed to Des Moines. Our whole crew will be up there all week. We'll have
hopefully Uncle Anthony will be up there.
I'm sure he will. Yeah, no question about it.
He's going to be with Big Ben. Big Ben will be around his neck.
Yeah. And speaking of Big Ben, I hope that Benton Smith has the courage to put his picks. We just put ours out there. And ours will be online in the bracket contest. You can find us and you can follow it. And you can trash talk us and you can taunt us and you can laugh when Butler wins it all and you had it.
You know, in the bracket challenge contest, it would probably be a smarter play to pick Michigan State to beat Kansas.
Right.
Because everyone will be picking Kansas in the Trudy Credit Union bracket challenge.
No doubt. That's kind of why I picked Carolina, to be honest with you. I think everybody's picking Kentucky to beat them. And I think Carolina plays with a chip and plays good basketball. We'll see. I don't know if we'll ever see Gary Beddore's picks. Does Gary Beddore make picks?
I don't know. I think he picks Kansas every year.
No, you know what he does? He picks Kansas and anyone ever associated with Kansas. Like Joe Dooley, he'll have Florida Gulf Coast in his Final Four.
That's right. He does do that. He'll have Vanderbilt winning the play-in game.
That Maryland-Kansas matchup looming is trouble for him because it's 2 Kansas.
He'll have Colorado,
Kansas.
Tad Boyle, another.
We could just spend a whole KU Sports Extra doing Gary's bracket, filling it out. But he will. He'll have a lot of Kansas flavor in his Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final Four. Roy will obviously make it to his title game.
Yep.
Amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. That's all we got. We'll check you guys out from Des Moines, and as long as Kansas goes, we'll be there with them. Thanks for checking out KU Sports Extra. Get your brackets in. Enjoy the tournament. Have a blast, and we'll talk to you guys very soon.